It's been one embarrassing setback after another for Donald Trump, and today was no exception. Following Viktor Orban's defeat, despite Donald Trump pushing for him on Truth Social and J.D. Vance showing up in person to campaign, it's become painfully obvious that Trump and the entire MAGA movement have never been more unpopular or damaging. And sadly, Trump had to face that harsh reality while out on the golf course, where fresh photos and videos are now adding to his humiliation. But it's not only Trump taking the heat. Even Vance is being embarrassed by the very person Trump spent the day with. It almost feels like a glimpse into the growing tensions and clashes within their own circle. I'm really looking forward to diving into all of this, from the wave of protests we're witnessing around the globe, especially the ones in Hungary, to the victory celebrations that are directly mocking Donald Trump. I also plan to cover the questionable side of all his golf getaways and the corruption tied to them, so make sure you stay with me for that. There's a lot to unpack in this video. But the whole situation is perfectly set up by what Donald Trump said about Viktor Orban just a few days ago, right before we get to how millions of people are now openly ridiculing him. Trump wrote on Truth Social, and I'm a little less sick now, so why not? I'll do the voice. Quite frankly, highly respected Prime Minister of Hungary, Viktor Orban is a truly strong and powerful leader with a proven track record of delivering phenomenal results like an election loss. He fights tirelessly for and loves his great country and people just like I do for the United States of America. What a lie. Viktor works hard to protect Hungary, to grow the economy, create jobs, promote trade, stop illegal immigration, and ensure law and order. Even though he's a fascist who breaks the law, relations between Hungary and the United States have reached new heights of cooperation and spectacular achievement under my administration, thanks largely to Prime Minister Viktor Orban. I look forward to continuing working closely with him so that both of our countries can further advance this tremendous path to success and cooperation. I truly don't know what success he's talking about. I was proud to endorse Viktor for re-election in 2022, and I'm honored to do so quite frankly again. Wow, Donald, your support really backfires in a big way, huh? Republicans are dropping seats left and right all over the country. The GOP still hasn't managed to flip even one district, House seat, Senate seat, or special election. Nothing at all since you took office. You're weighing your own party down. Everything seems to be falling apart around you, and you're exporting that same poisonous effect across the globe. We watched it happen in Canada. We saw it unfold in Denmark, and now it's playing out in Hungary, which explains why we're witnessing not only joyful celebrations over Orban's loss, but also strong protests against Russian influence and the close partnership we observe between Orban and, naturally, Vladimir Putin. The meddling in the election, that's really the only way to describe it, coming straight from our own government. It's more than just people rejoicing in the streets. There are demonstrations aimed at Putin, at Trump, and at this tight-knit group of powerful insiders who've been working to undermine the Western world. I want to go through some of those moments, see how they're affecting Donald Trump's golf outing, and cover plenty more, so hang tight with me. But this is such a powerful and satisfying scene unfolding right now in Hungary.
That's right. They really come out onto the streets of Budapest to celebrate. These are TISA supporters who understand now not only that Peter Magyar has won the election, becoming the new Hungarian Prime Minister, but also that the TISA party has achieved the two-thirds majority in the parliament, giving it that supermajority that Peter Magyar had promised he would use to return the rule of law to Hungary. And as you can see, a lot of celebrations going on here in Budapest. We've spoken to young people sort of in their 20s who've told us, look, Viktor Orban had been in government, in power, practically all of our lives. They can't quite believe. But as you can see, it is all of Budapest, really, that has come out now to show their support, their enthusiasm, and a certain disbelief that this has actually happened in such a dramatic way. The figures really are quite astonishing. We've watched parliamentary seat after parliamentary seat held by some of the founders of Viktor Orban's party, Fidesz, people who've been European commissioners, people who are ministers, lose their seats. So it is an extraordinary landslide tonight for TISA.
These are truly remarkable and inspiring moments, especially with our own elections just around the corner, giving us a real shot at reshaping history. And that means more than simply taking back the House and the Senate. It's about bringing in genuine progressives who can make a lasting difference. Gretchen Whitmer, Peggy Flanagan, Abdul El Sayed, actual progressives ready to push for deep structural reforms. That way we won't just respond with speeches, press releases, or strongly worded statements against this administration. Instead, we can tackle the root causes and the broken systems that led us to this point. That's the real opportunity ahead of us. And we could be out in the streets celebrating just like that. And I believe that one day, whether it's Congress finally stepping up or even one of Donald Trump's cheeseburgers somehow doing its part, we'll get to celebrate in the same way when our own authoritarian gets voted out, as long as we put in the work. But today, Donald Trump didn't receive the kind of victory party he was hoping for. Instead, he was out on the golf course looking, well, let's dive into all of it. As you can clearly see, Donald Trump is forcing a smile through the discomfort at his golf club, appearing pretty rough and noticeably pale. He skipped the usual heavy makeup today. But yeah, Donald Trump is out there enjoying himself, while the rest of us keep suffering the consequences of his disastrous war. And if you really want to see just how rough he looks, check out this video right here. So, here we see Donald Trump shuffling along with that oversized McDonald's belly weighing him down, slowly making his way over. Everyone's ready to clap like trained seals. Yay, Mr. Trump. He looks washed out and pale, kind of hunched forward, reaching out to touch a woman. It seems awkward, probably a bit uncomfortable. Then we watch him lower himself into the seat. Oh yeah, I can't quite move. The chair won't budge. Oh, I'm trying. He's really trying. And then, oh, heavy drop. Big drop. He can hardly get himself settled. Oh, another big plop. That one looked painful. He's really not looking too sharp there. What stood out about this particular golf day, though, is that Donald Trump spent this time with Governor Ron DeSantis and Casey Dantis earlier today, per a White House official. That whole situation strikes me as fascinating for a few different reasons. Donald Trump looks terrible, and he's facing protests all around the world, both him and his ally Putin, right after they took a major humiliating loss. Donald Trump really does appear to be the picture of someone who's been defeated and is slowly falling apart, whether physically, mentally, or politically, in every way. But the Ron DeSantis angle here is especially intriguing. Donald Trump spends most of his time at Mar-a-Lago and at his club. So why would Ron DeSantis suddenly show up, especially at a time when J.D. Vance is away and clearly struggling, and might have even played a role in Donald Trump's friend losing in Hungary? Why is Ron DeSantis stepping in like this, especially since just a week or two ago? Time has been a blur for all of us lately, hasn't it? Ron DeSantis was on Sean Hannity's show and said, I'm not ruling out 2028. I'm still considering it. I've still got my eye on 2028. It feels like Ron DeSantis might be making his move right now. He's watching J.D. Vance stumble badly on the international stage. Vance helped tank the Pope's situation, he helped destroy Orban's chances of winning, he killed some kind of deal, and now he might be destroying his own future in politics. So I find it telling that DeSantis is stepping in at this moment, looking at a weakened and crumbling Trump, and perhaps saying something like, "Oh, you look fantastic. You don't look pale at all. You don't have that big gut. You're not shaking, wobbling, struggling to walk, or having trouble sitting down. I think you're doing wonderfully. But if we're looking ahead to the future, maybe you should consider supporting me instead. Ron with the boots and the awkward voice. Perhaps it's time to get behind me." That seems like a pretty realistic possibility at this point. And it would make total sense for Ron DeSantis to try to score some points and win a bit of Trump's favor while Vance is collapsing on the world stage, because J.D. Vance is definitely falling apart internationally. So it's a rough day for Donald Trump, it's a rough day for Vance, and honestly, I think that's a fantastic day. It would be even better if we weren't throwing away hundreds of millions of dollars on these golf trips, which doesn't get nearly enough attention. I want to dig into that before we discuss more about Donald Trump's war, what it means for the rest of today, and plenty of other topics. So hang in there after this quick break. Second-term tab for Trump's golf hobby topped 70 million and is on track to exceed 300 million. The total would double the $151.5 million taxpayers shelled out for him to play golf during his first term. This was back in December, but reportedly taxpayers have now shelled out nearly $71 million for Donald Trump's golf hobby since he retook office in January, with his second-term total on pace to break $300 million. According to the HuffPost analysis, his visits to his course adjacent to the Palm Beach County Jail Wednesday was his 16th trip. Again, this was back in November, so 16th trip last year to Mar-a-Lago. 4 miles away from his house, of course. That club 4 miles away from Mar-a-Lago. Each of those trips cost $3.4 million in travel and security expenses. If Donald Trump just makes 2 more trips to Mar-a-Lago in December, which I believe he did, he made 4 in November, including one over Halloween weekend, his golf expenses will top $75 million in 2025. On that pace, he would be exceeding $300 million over his 4-year term. In contrast, Donald Trump spent $175 million, sorry, I should say $171.5 million, of taxpayer money on golf-related travel and security expenses during his first term. I really wish I could tell you that it would make anyone in America change their mind about him, but the corruption is so baked in, it's so endemic, it's so ludicrous that it feels that the collective reaction will be a shrug, said longtime Republican consultant Rick Wilson, now a Trump critic. It is one more example of Trump defiling the presidency way, way down and just wasting our money. So yes, Donald Trump's golf outings are an enormous drain on taxpayer dollars. And that would be bad enough if it were simply a massive waste of public money, but that cash is also flowing straight into Donald Trump's own pockets. It's basically like Donald Trump is paying himself to go out and play golf. A big chunk of the security costs obviously goes toward his travel arrangements. Air Force One isn't cheap, right? Those motorcades add up too. But when Donald Trump hosts lavish parties and rents out space at Mar-a-Lago or his Palm Beach club, he's got the golf carts, the security detail, and guests buying drinks while they come to see him and strike deals. He's raking in serious money. All of it ends up in Donald Trump's hotel. All of it goes into Donald Trump's golf course. All of it flows into Donald Trump's properties. So we're not just throwing money away. We're spending it so Donald Trump can enjoy his golf games and personally profit from them at the same time. I'm glad that, in at least a small way, as Donald Trump's time in office continues to unravel, his golf day got spoiled by the news that his friend Viktor Orban was voted out. Because this isn't the only foreign policy flop for Donald Trump this week, obviously. This war has always been a ridiculous notion, but the approaches and bargaining strategies Donald Trump is bringing to the table, like suggesting we set up our own blockade of the Strait of Hormuz, which makes zero sense, or talking about ramping up bombing campaigns right when things are supposed to be heading toward peace, are completely absurd. And I think Jon Ossoff did an excellent job laying out just how much of a disaster this war has become. I always enjoy hearing from the senator, especially when he steps up every so often to deliver a strong speech. I believe this was definitely one of those times, and I want to play a clip of it.
Now let's just take a moment and try to wrap our heads around Donald Trump's war. 13 brave Americans killed and hundreds wounded. Thousands of civilians dead. Military equipment it will take years to replace. Skyrocketing inflation. Massive damage to our reputation and position in the world. But Iran's ballistic missiles and drones are not destroyed. The regime is intact, along with its ability to throttle the global energy supply, along with its stockpile of highly enriched uranium, which it only assembled after Donald Trump shredded President Obama's Iran deal. And for all this, the White House said they already need $200 billion. $200 billion after 6 weeks. That's 10 years of nationwide pre-K. That's 9 years of paid family and medical leave. And while our national power and wealth are squandered and families are made to pay more for everything, rest assured, the Mar-a-Lago mafia are finding ways to profit. Because of course they are. The Financial Times reported, quote, Pete Hegseth's broker looked to buy defense fund before Iran attack.